Welcome to the Natural Health Show with one of New England's leading holistic specialists, Mark Mincola. Call Mark at 617-822-1969 on 96.9 Boston Talks.
Welcome home, Natural Health Nation. And I hope everybody in Natural Health Nation is in good health. Unfortunately, we're getting a little early taste of winter, and is there such a thing as flu season anymore? Catherine Foley from Ajaro Formulas, welcome on board.
Hi, Mark.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
I mean, there used to be if you talk to the Center for Disease Control, of course, they'll tell you October through April is what we think of as flu season. So flu season is now officially here. And they say that February, they've been keeping records over the past 35 years regarding flu season. And they say that February is our peak month for flu season, followed by January, followed by March and December. But, you brought up a great point. It seems like people are just always sniffling.
Yeah, it really does not seem to be localized to flu season anymore. And certainly in the natural products industry, the stores, and it's where we kind of start to build up our product selection and offerings for our customers for that genre. And, it'll be the middle of summer and my stores will tell me that, there's like a summer flu going around, or there's a spring flu going around. So, for whatever reason, whether the viruses are getting stronger or adjusting themselves, there just seems to be more exposure.
Well, and over the past 30 years of practitionership, I would concur. I see patterns over those 30 years where it seems like the first, maybe 10 or 15 years that I did the work that I do, I would see pretty much true to form that during the month of December, January, February, March, you'd see most of your lion's share of flu stuff. Mm-hmm. But, in the last, I would say 10 years, you're absolutely right. The boundaries are surely blurred, and it's just constant right now that the flow of illness that I see is just ever present, and folks are fighting what look like to be viruses and flu-type sicknesses in July, and in March and May and June and September, and it just goes on and on and on. There's just no distinction anymore, to me, between what we call flu season and the way we used to think of it versus today.
Yeah, Mark, and the other thing, that I have noticed over the years, too, is the duration of the flu. When people are getting it, and I'm sure you see that as well as a practitioner.
And the virulence of it as well. I think that the potency of these bugs. We talked last year about the NDM1 strain of bacteria. Over 3,000 people were killed by this superbug, this NDM1 bacteria that started in the Middle East and ravaged through parts of Europe last year. And there was grave concern because the super bugs, which are, of course, mutated, the way we're fighting them, of course, encourages mutation to some extent as well. But this particular strain, the NDM1 bacteria, was found to be resistant to 15 different antibiotics.
Wow.
So the health world was really frightened and up in arms about what this could mean. Thank God for a University of Sydney, Australia study that shortly thereafter found that Manuka honey had over 800 methylglyoxal agents in it. And these are agents that will strip the immune factor in bacteria, and that's exactly what this honey did. So folks were using the Manuka honey to kind of defeat this NDM1 strain of bacteria, but it's getting harder and harder to pinpoint what to use, whether it's natural medicine or otherwise, and really how to get a hold on some of these very virulent, mutated strains.
Yeah, and I think more now so than ever, there's, additional reasons to do the things that you need to do with natural medicine. And like one of the products that we'll talk about are some of the natural herbs and items that we'll speak on to prevent getting the flu. Because the duration is so long, because they are so virulent, particularly with the upper respiratory impact. And, there's a lot of folks out there. It's a tough economy, and there's a lot of folks out there that don't want to miss a day of work.
Absolutely.
So I think there's
can't
more
afford
reasons
to miss a day of work.
Yeah, and we see that as well in in the supplement industry and in natural foods is that when the economy gets worse, people actually do take better care of their health because they know that that's what they're really depending on to get to work every day.
Okay, so we start with the problem.
Yeah.
These bugs are getting worse.
Yep.
They're hanging around longer. They're beating us up worse. They're ever present more of the year than they've ever been before. Now about the solutions. The $64,000 question, what about the flu shot?
Right. Right. You know, the flu shot.
Dr. Richard Besser was just on ABC television
Right.
recently talking about the flu vaccine not being as effective as they thought.
Yeah, it was, you know,
Virtually half the
news.
people that are getting flu shots aren't getting any results because of mismatches, etc.
Yeah, ABC News about 4 days ago. You know, they did a very large clinical study looking at the effectiveness of the flu shot over a broad range of years and
University of Minnesota researchers, yep.
yeah, and subjects, and they saw the least amount of effectiveness in the mid-adult population, which is, you know, these are the moms and the
Sure,
dads
you bet.
and the people responsible for taking care of families and paying the bills.
So we look up at the sky and say, what is the solution? And you know, we kind of joke about that, but there really are viable, well-studied natural solutions
Right.
without side effects. One of the ones that I often talk about is the 1982 research that was done at the Center for Disease Control by Dr. John Kabar and Dr. Heyerholzer. They found that you know, they got a grant at the CDC in Atlanta and found that one of the remarkable natural medicines that was really effective was the lauric acid, the monolaurin that we
Right.
talk about, because it was antiviral, antifungal, antiprotozoal, antibacterial, really good stuff. And it was found to be effective against bird flu, of all things.
Right, right.
So, I mean, very few people know about that. We're also going to talk a lot about something called Resist Immune, which, of course, is a remarkable Jarrow Formulas product that you brought in.
Yeah, it's a brand new product for us. You know, we've spoken with Dallas a number of times on the radio, and this is one of Dallas's brainchilds.
He did a marvelous job on
yeah.
this one. He really did. The
Yeah.
Epicor, the astragalus, the elderberry, Andrographis. I mean, what a great antiviral. Andrographis has been an antiviral in Chinese medicine for over 3,000 years.
Andrographis is
Remarkable.
remarkable in so many different ways. I mean, not only for just cold and flu, it has amazing cardiovascular
Yes.
Effects, anti-inflammatory
Yes.
effects.
And super for rhinovirus, for those folks
Right.
that tend to get that sinusy head cold kind of
Yeah.
thing. Amazing, amazing supplement. So I think that we are looking forward to hearing more about that.
Yeah. And we're going to
uh,
have Dr. Bell on with us later.
Oh, great. Good.
She is working with us at Jarrow, and she'll talk to us a little bit about the product and one ingredient in particular, Epicor. It's an amazing raw material, and it has a really cool story behind it, so she'll be able to bring that to light
great.
for us. And we're excited to be working with Dr. Bell. She's renowned, has done tons of research in her career with Harvard Medical School in nutrition. She's a PhD nutritionist, and she's a local. She's a Boston
Great.
native. So,
Born and raised.
yeah.
That's great. And of course, we're not here just to talk to you about our topics of the evening, which of course are the flu and what you can do about it. Colds and flus need natural solutions. We've got some great ones. We're also here to take your questions regarding any virtually any natural health issues, diet, nutrition, supplements, food supplements et al. And you can call us in Boston, New England at 617-822-1969. Verizon Wireless uses free call pound 969. We see your calls are lighting up already. We're going to get to you guys in just a little bit. We've got a little bit of work to take care of here first. And Catherine, you know, one of the things too that I think is so very, very important is the nutritional component here.
Yeah.
You know, we always want to make sure that we're talking about both nutrition as well as food supplementation.
Right. And, you know, the thing is about winter, and about winter particularly for New Englanders, is just because, you know, the fruits and veggies are kind of slimming down, and their options in the grocery store. Don't let them slim down in your diet.
Don't
and
let
your
them
plate
slim
at
down in your
home.
diet. In fact, I just did a talk at the Seaport World Trade Center downtown for the Boston Globe Seniors and Boomers Expo that they had. Remarkable group down there. But I did a talk about the China study, you know, just talking about the importance of those fruits and vegetables. You cannot let loose on those fruits and veggies. That's an extremely important component here. Really, you know, that particular remarkable study, which is an ongoing study since 1983, really underscored the point that fruits, vegetables, and vegetable proteins, not just animal fats and animal proteins, which of course the American diet is so rich in, are so very, very important. When you think in terms of important messages that we get from the China study, that 5 times the amount of osteoporosis in America versus China, yet they consume 1/2 the amount of dairy products.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not all about loading up on calcium to strengthen the bones. Being careful about those animal proteins and being really liberal with those vegetable proteins is a new message.
Yeah, you know, and in the wintertime, we do have a tendency to eat more of those heavy animal proteins. And, you know, I even find for myself when I go grocery shopping, the amount of produce in my basket is usually a little bit less in the winter because it's just visually you don't see it there. So you do have to go out of your way to make sure.
There's actually a vegetable of the season right now. It's called candy corn.
Oh, I know.
There's a whole lot of that going down. Anyway,
it hits its peak tomorrow.
we're going to take a short little break. We'll be right back with you. Stay right where you are. Right where you are.
Now, back to the Natural Health Show, sponsored by Good Health Natural Foods in Quincy and Hanover.
In Boston and New England, 617-822-1969. Verizon Wireless users, free call pound 969. Let's get to a call here. We got Andy from Nashville. Welcome to 969. You've got all the time in the world. Chat away.
Hey, how are you?
Terrific. How are you, Andy?
Kind of sick.
Sorry to hear it.
I'm actually been spending the day out of my house on purpose because there was mold discovered in my condo. So, long story short, I've been living there for 4 years, and starting about a month ago, I had this chronic sore throat, itchy eyes, you know, the sore throat and then itchy eyes, and then it got worse and worse. Where I had a really, really bad red throat, and I suspected it was mold because we found my toilet upstairs was leaking into the ceiling. So I had it tested yesterday, and the woman didn't even she's the person that came out to inspect it, just knew right away. She saw it. She goes, "This is mold." The reason why I'm calling today is to ask. I went to the doctor. He gave me Allegra D and a nasal steroid, and the woman who came and did the mold test is sort of a fan of natural therapies and things like that and supplements. She was telling me to take oregano oil if I feel I've been exposed to mold, and also fermented cod liver oil. I wanted to ask you if someone's exposed to mold or something like that, and is there any supplements that you would recommend I take?
Well, first of all, we salute the gal who gave you the oregano oil recommendation, because that shows a lot of savvy and a lot of knowledge on her part, which is most rare. But, I think that oregano oil is probably a really good recommendation for the simple reason that Dr. Harry Preuss down at Georgetown University has done years and years of study on the idea of natural antibiotic support. And, of course, mold becomes fungal in the body, and fungus is basically a single-cell bacteria that is a bacterial infection. So she's right to recommend that. And the oreganol is something that you can purchase in pretty palatable form. There's 140 milligram pearls, the little soft gels, and I'd recommend 3 of those twice a day for starters. Also, there's a company called BioAllers that makes yeast mold drops, and they're homeopathic antigen drops. And I'd recommend you get those and put probably 10 drops under the tongue twice a day as well. And those things are going to both help you a little bit. But you know what? Dietarily, you better lay off of vinegar. As long as that house or as long as your environment is mold riddled, you're going to have to be careful dietarily about compounding the amount that your system has to contend with. So fermented foods are suddenly taboo until you get that thing fixed. So,
so no fermented foods?
No fermented foods or beverages. If you're used to drinking beer, wine, and champagne, that's history. You're going to have to be thinking in terms of vodka and tequila, and I'm going to turn you into a real lush now.
No cheese?
No cheese, no fermented foods. Your breads have to get down to the health food store and get some yeast-free breads. You want to do some, some straight eating. Use whole grain products, fruits, vegetables, lean proteins. No vinegar, no miso, tempeh, tamari, no soy sauce. You don't want to use any blue cheese or any kind of marinades, anything like that. So avoid the fermented stuff. Also be careful in nuts, especially peanuts and pistachio nuts. So stick with the proteins, chicken, turkey, fish, whatever proteins you like. If you like beans are fine. Your vegetables, with the exception of mushrooms, obviously. Your whole grain products and your fruits.
What about whey protein?
Yeah, I think you're probably all right there. Unless you have a dairy allergy, you should be fine.
One last question.
Yep.
I was getting, I had a sore throat. Then I had like kind of a little bit of a pain in my jaw.
Yep.
Then I had an earache, and then I woke up with acute pain on the two muscles on the side of, like if you take the back of your neck on each muscle on the side. And I went to the doctor yesterday, and they said, "Oh, you have glands back there. It's just your body trying to." It's because it's an allergic reaction. And I was freaked out because I said, "Is this infection going to my spine?" And he said I would have to have a temperature to have some type of I was wondering if it was meningitis or something like that, or an infection from the mold.
Yeah, mold is nothing to play around with because there are different cultures. Obviously, there's many different types of mold. But if you take like Aspergillus niger, for example, or black mold, there are about 200 deaths a year from black mold. Not to scare you. Obviously, you're not going to have that kind of a problem, I'm sure. But, it just points out the fact that for the elderly and the very young, for example, it's extremely, extremely important to be careful of these issues and to treat them properly. Also, in your case, be careful of this stuff. But like we said, I think the advice we gave you is good. You're going to have to get that stuff taken out of there and fixed. There are companies who can straighten that out, fix that, and get your environment back to a safe.
Oh, yeah, I'm already in the works of, I'm going to have it remediated, but for the time being, I'm running HEPA filters in the house.
There you go. You'll be fine. You're doing all the right things, and again, not to underestimate the nasty potential of this stuff. It's pretty nasty stuff, so you're headed in the right direction.
What was the name of the yeast I got to put under my tongue real quick?
Those actually, it's not yeast. It's actually BioAllers is the company, and it's a yeast mold antigen, which means that there's no yeast in there anymore. It's a homeopathic, which means there's only a memory of that left in there, but it's very, very effective. It's an antigen that helps build up your immunity for that stuff, so you get better at contending with it immunologically.
Yeast mold antigen. How do you spell bio?
BIO Allers, ALLERS, BioAllers yeast mold drops.
ALLA like apple?
ALLERS.
Oh, ERS.
Yep.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for your help.
Our pleasure. Thank you for calling. And Good Health Natural Foods, of course, has the BioAllers drops. Yeah. And Good Health Natural Foods will also have the pearls that we talked about, the oregano pearls, 140 milligram pearls as well. So we could actually talk a little bit about Resist Immune here. Right. Resist Immune is something that we've been talking about. Jarrow Formulas is this on the market? Is this available now in the health food stores?
Yep.
Okay, so it's out there. It's called Resist Immune by Jarrow Formulas. And again, it has Epicor, it has astragalus, elderberry, andrographis, it has scutellaria, root. One of the things I like to talk about with elderberry is the Israeli army decided of the one natural supplement they were going to provide their armed forces with to protect them against exposures that were biological. It actually was elderberry extract, Sambucol.
Wow, that's
so
amazing.
Of all the things they could have chosen, they chose elderberry extract, which is a remarkable polyphenol, a great immune-enhancing agent, loaded with immune-enhancing potential.
Yeah, every ingredient in this formula is one of those, superstar ingredients, and they do a lot more than just cold and flu, so you're getting lots of other benefits from it. It's really great for endurance. Endurance athletes take andrographis.
Absolutely.
All of those things. So it's good for energy. It's good for overall well-being, not just fighting colds and flu.
So Resist Immune by Jarrow Formulas. This is the first year on the market, yes?
Really, yeah, it's brand new.
So brand new product, and again, supports immune resistance and balance, and it's a remarkably beautifully developed product.
Yeah, it really is. And later we'll hear from Dr. Bell about Epicor, which is a novel new ingredient, and that's exciting as well. But it's just a great formula to have around. You can take it throughout the winter just to keep your endurance and your strength up and your overall health and wellness. But it just also it's good to have it around. If you can't take it every day, you can't remember. I know a
Right,
lot of us
right.
have, it's hard to remember where your keys are in the morning. So,
You too?
yeah. And, so it's good to have something like this around so that
course.
when you do feel, little signs or symptoms like Andy just said, I feel like I have a little sore throat, or,
Yep.
you've sneezed a couple times more than normal, you'll have the bottle there and you can load up on it and, not get the flu, because like we were talking about earlier, it's sticking around longer.
It is. More virulent.
Worse. It's the upper respiratory is
Absolutely.
People are it's the flus and colds are turning into bronchitis and all of that nasty stuff.
We know you have questions about your nutrition in Boston and New England. 617-822-1969. Verizon Wireless users, free call, pound 96.9. Let's get to David in New Hampshire. Welcome to 96.9 Boston Talk Show and the Natural Health Show.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
I'm calling on behalf of a lady who lives in Georgia in her 70s, and she had a couple of fainting incidents last summer, which she attributed to the heat, but she had one last week, and I told her I'd call up and see what you might recommend. She had, I say, she's had no really serious medical troubles in her entire life.
Well, we certainly would first of all suggest that she gets in to check out this situation with her physician and make sure that that there's no serious issue here. Obviously, that's number one. If she has done that, or if she does do that, then we might go to number two here, which would be to think in terms of it could be blood sugar. I don't know what her dietary patterns are like, but when you consider that the brain requires about 90% of your body's glucose, and glucose management is something that, of course, is greatly required by the brain. So if the blood sugars are too high or too low, that's going to create a lot of problems. People black out when their blood sugar gets low, obviously. I remember years ago when I was in college, I had a roommate who was only in his 20s, and we were sitting at a luncheon counter, and he keeled right over and fell right out of his stool, and we were scared to death thinking something horrible had happened. And, of course, we went to the physician, and the doctor that he went to see said, no, you got low blood sugar problems. So his blood sugar was just too darn low. And that could well be the issue. Could be electrolytes. Could be a lot of different things. I think.
Well, I might say it could be dietary, because she has an aversion to acidic fruits. There's a whole bunch of them she can't eat.
I see.
There might be also, it depends on what activity she was doing at the time. It could be blood pressure, like if she was sitting down and she went from a sitting down position to
She was
standing up.
outside in the garden, but the temperature was normal.
Well, yeah, and also was she bending over, and when she stood up, that's when she felt the dizziness?
It's possible, yeah.
That sometimes can be blood sugar.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, not blood sugar.
Pressure.
Blood pressure is, when you go from leaning over to standing up, sometimes the blood pressure doesn't regulate
Right,
fast
and if she's in
enough.
the garden, she's obviously bending over, and she's tending to her gardening chores, and it could well be the case that her blood pressure is a little bit on the low side, and she could be blacking out as a result. So blood sugar, blood pressure, electrolytes, too much to try to assume from at this point. I think she needs to
just have some good diagnostics.
get some good diagnostics pinned down, get to see a good doctor. And, if she's in her 70s, I'd recommend that she gets somebody in there to escort her and to ask some questions. Sometimes, elderly folks tend to be a little bit genteel.
I know.
May not mention a whole lot of questions and kind of want to move through it pretty quickly. But to have somebody in there as an advocate who asks the right questions. But blood sugar, blood pressure, electrolytes, those would be the first three that I'd check out. All right?
Hello?
Hello, did you hear those recommendations, David? Oh, I guess we just lost David. All right.
We lost
anyway,
him,
we
huh?
said, David, we said blood pressure, blood sugar, and electrolytes. So hopefully you or somebody can get in there with her soon and maybe have some conversation with a physician in terms of one of those three and trying to get a good diagnostic reading. We, on the other hand, are going to take a little breather here and sell a few light bills and pay off a few light bills, rather. We'll be right with you. Stay right where you are. Stay right where you are.
Now back to the Natural Health Show, sponsored by Good Health Natural Foods in Quincy and Hanover.
In Boston and New England, 617-822-1969. Verizon Wireless users, free call, pound 96.9. Let's get to Katie in Thompson, Connecticut. Welcome to 96.9 Boston Talk Show and the Natural Health Show.
Hi there. Thanks for taking my call.
Pleasure.
I have trouble swallowing pills, so I'm wondering if you recommend any liquid multivitamin that would be easy. And I also have hypothyroidism, so any recommendations for that as well?
Well, do you know any liquid multis that you'd recommend?
Katie, there's a lot out there. There's some from a company called Nature's Answer. There's some from a company called Nature's Plus.
Okay.
There's a good selection out there. If you go to
Mhm.
your local health food store, they'll be able to steer you in the right direction. And a liquid is great. Just make sure that it has good potencies in it, or high potencies. Mark and I were just talking about the gummy multivitamin craze. Like, this is not a multivitamin, so don't go there.
Okay.
Just go right into the candy store and just get the gummy bears. Forget the vitamin thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
In terms of hypothyroid, I mean, I think that there's a book that I often recommend here on the broadcast, and it's called Solved: The Riddle of Illness. And it's written by Dr. Richard Langer, and he was the executive director at the Broda Barnes Thyroid Research Center in Trumbull, Connecticut. Wrote a great book, again, Solved: The Riddle of Illness. It's a wonderful, wonderful read in terms of really getting the whole skinny on natural thyroid treatments. But I would recommend selenomethionine, which is a selenium that's a methionine kind of convergent with selenium. Seleno, S-E-L-E-N-O, methionine, M-E-T-H-I-O-N-I-N-E, 200 mcgs a day. I'd recommend zinc in the form of gluconate, 50 milligrams a day. Those are probably a good start anyway, but you want to make sure that you read that book. There's a lot of great information in there.
Okay, how about coconut oil? Do you recommend that for the thyroid?
Sure, coconut oil is really a good way to go. Also, I mean, there's other things like lemon balm, which is very helpful, bugleweed, a lot of different things that you could utilize. But I think that coconut oil is fine.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for calling. Pleasure. Thank you. So, Catherine, let's get back to immunity here. It is flu season, so it officially starts in October, even though it kind of goes all year long, as we already pointed out.
Yeah.
So what is the recommendation on this? Is this just 2 capsules a day, I believe, right? The Resist Immune. Again, Jarrow Formulas has a product just hitting the markets as we speak called Resist Immune. Supports immune resistance and balance. A remarkable formula because it has astragalus, elderberry, endographis, scutellaria root, but it also has epicor, which we're going to talk more about in a little bit.
Yeah.
But we're talking about a really rare selection of items here that are kind of, as you point out, superstars.
Right. And, each one of these ingredients has a wealth of clinical information behind it. So, astragalus root also is, what the Chinese used to call kind of like the ginseng for your immune system. It's a really, it's a warming tonic as well. So it really helps with the constitution of your body in the cold winter months. But astragalus root also helps show in clinical studies it increases markers of T-cell activation. Just lots of really great stuff. And the elderberry, as you had mentioned, has been used for ages as an antiviral.
Yeah, in fact, our producer, Mike Roberts, pointed out that during the last break, somebody called in, I guess, and one of our callers asked what the elderberry product was that we spoke of. Well, there are really 2 of them, actually, caller. One of them is the Jarrow Formulas Resist Immune, and the other one is Sambucal, S-A-M-B-U-C-A-L.
Which is the traditional syrup. It was an elderberry syrup.
Exactly. So you could look at Resist Immune because the Resist Immune has 250 milligrams of the elderberry extract, or the Sambucal, S-A-M-B-U-C-A-L, which all the health food stores pretty much keep track of. But these are amazing agents. Sambucal, I should say, the elderberry extract actually has, it's a polyphenol. It has tremendous antioxidant boost. But it also has a lot of vitamin C, a lot of natural occurring vitamin C in elderberry as well.
Right.
So it's a great antiviral, antibacterial formula. Also, the astragalus, which we talked about, is something that I'm really pretty excited about too. Astragalus is really something that's been used in Chinese medicine, again, for thousands of years, along with the endographis that we talked about. Endographis, many different properties, among them antiviral, especially. I found it really effective with rhino-type virus, a lot of sinus, head cold kind of stuff, eye, ear, nose, throat sickness. But the astragalus has been used as an adaptogen in Chinese medicine for 3,000 years, which means that it's designed to strengthen and really fortify your general immunity and your overall chi or life force.
Yeah, that's why I love this formula, because this formula is, there's a lot of wellness formulas out there for, cold and flu season, but they will have, you may ask the question, well, if this is for immune, how come we don't have things like echinacea or golden seal in there, which you commonly see in wellness formulas? And, one of the reasons is, golden seal is an amazing herb. People use it for fighting infections and all of that stuff, but it's not an herb that you can take every day.
Well, the thing that I like also is nobody skimped on the potencies here.
Yeah.
You're talking about 500 milligrams of Epicor, you're talking 250 milligrams of astragalus, 250 milligrams of elderberry, 200 milligrams of andrographis, 200 milligrams of scutellaria root. I mean, nobody scrimped when they put this formula together, which is to the benefit of the consumer, because a lot of consumers out there would love to get benefit of antiviral, antibacterial, immune-enhancing stuff, but don't want to take 5 or 6 different supplements.
Right.
You get it all one-stop shopping here. It's great.
Yeah, so the potency is high, and the ingredients in there are multidimensional, so it's not necessarily something that is going to be pigeonholed to just cold and flu season. It's really something to just help overall wellness and endurance and immune support.
So you can get Resist Immune in your health food stores. Also, why don't you give Jarrow Formula's website?
Yeah, our website is really wonderful.
It is.
Yeah, we have all of our products up there, but we also have like a science reading room where you can look at some of the clinicals or some of the nutritional articles and all of that stuff. The website is jarrow.com.
Simple enough.
JARROW.
And it's a wealth of knowledge, and there's an amazing amount of educational information and research information there that kind of spells out the importance and the validity of so many of these really great formulas that you have.
Yeah, and there's also, just to make a note for people, there's also a link right on our homepage that will link you to some very important documents about the regulatory framework of dietary supplements. There's some legislation in Congress right now that greatly threatens our ability to be able to buy dietary supplements. So if you do go to the Jarrow website and you can press on that link, Jarrow provided a link there so that you can fill out a letter and send it to your senator or congressman.
Well, that's kind of a travesty in my opinion. I think that what this freedom of choice is really all about is people empowering themselves, learning, becoming inspired and educated about how to better care for themselves. And there are forces that are contrary to that out there, unfortunately, for political and for economic purposes, and it's a travesty.
Well, at Jarrow Formulas, we really believe that the ability to treat yourself and take a role in providing some of your own health care is a personal freedom.
And really, when you think about it, it's all about prevention. There's a great old expression in Chinese medicine that talks about the person who waits until the sickness has fallen upon them before they start treating it is like the warrior who waits to cast his weapons until the enemy's at his door.
Right.
You want to prevent illness, folks.
Yeah.
And there are forces to be out there that are looking to take away your power to preserve and protect and defend your immune system and to prevent illness. Right. And the first part of wellness is prevention of disease. And that's really what this whole movement is about, people learning and growing and evolving, gaining a sense of wisdom and strength so that they can empower themselves to greater prevention. And I think prevention is really what this is all about.
Right. And, if you're not feeling good, or, some of the callers that we see on the show, I mean, any given day, any given Sunday,
yep.
We'll have people...
Sounds like a football cliche.
It's football day. Any given Sunday, we'll, have people that are taking the extra step to do the things that they need to do to turn their health around. And if they want to buy a vitamin with extra vitamin C, or you can do that. You have the personal freedom in the United States to do that. There are other countries where
you can't.
You cannot. So
in fact, it's becoming more so that way in Europe right now.
Yeah. So we want to maintain that right.
You can't buy vitamin E in France right now.
Right, without a prescription.
Without a prescription.
You know, and so you have to pay the copay for the doctor. You have to. It just adds a lot of cost for everybody. Remarkable
stuff. And of course, you can prevent your flu this year with Jarrow Formula's Resist Immune. Hey, we're going to be right back after these messages. Stay right on board.
Now, back to the Natural Health Show, sponsored by Good Health Natural Foods in Quincy and Hanover.
Dr. Bell is on board. Dr. Bell is an independent consultant, author, and public speaker in the field of nutrition. Stacy Bell, over the past 20 years, has developed products to help with the management of type 1 diabetes, obesity, sleep, stress, exercise, and bowel cleansing programs. Dr. Stacy Bell, welcome on board.
So much. I'm very happy to be here.
Pleasure to have you on board. Say hi to Catherine Foley.
Yeah. Okay, Catherine.
Hi, Dr. Bell. I'm so happy to have you on.
Thank you very much.
We have been just talking today about the cold and flu season, and in particular about the new Jarrow product, Resist Immune. And I know that you have a really great story around one of the ingredients, the Epicor. And I would love to share that with folks so that they can know what a powerful raw material that is.
Great. Yeah, I heard a little bit about I heard what you were talking about. It is a good product, and I was impressed that you realized that the doses are in the right amount. And so often I look on the shelf and I see an ingredient that actually does something, but when it's in a suboptimal amount, you don't get anywhere. But this product, the driving force in this is called Epicor, and it's a fermented yeast product. And The story goes back in the Midwest, I believe it was Michigan or Indiana or something, there was a factory, and the factory processed yeast and sold it for animal feed. And there were two offices. There were the plant where all the workers were fiddling with the yeast and using it every day and packaging it up. And then there was the management office that came over to the factory occasionally but was in a separate building and, in doing their own paperwork and whatever. And after a couple of years, the workers in the factory noticed that they were never getting sick. They went to their union reps and they said, how can this be? We feel great. We're not using our sick times. We were entitled to them, but we're still here. Yet the management staff was still regularly getting flu and cold and taking many, many sick days. So the owners of the company didn't want this to go away. If it was real and they could figure out something, they were going to go for it.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's what happened. And then this was in the mid '80s to 2000, and then in mid 2000, around 2007, a company was formed. And all it did was put scientists in the company. It said, here's the problem. People aren't getting sick. They know they're not getting sick. And compared to another group of workers in a similar community, why is this happening? And the scientists went to work. They took blood from people. They gave mice the product. They did everything they could. And they realized that there was something to the story. But that wasn't good enough to start a company. Then the company had to hire and get patients enrolled, hire doctors that actually know how to do research on human beings. They left the mice study and went right into the humans. And there were many, many published studies in good journals on using this Epicor ingredient on its own at the dose that you would get in these 2 capsules each day. And then the most important two, probably for people listening, the first one is reducing the number of colds and flu that you get, the incidence, if you will. And the second thing is, if you happen to get a cold, bad luck, if you get one, you're not going to be as sick. You're going to have less symptoms like hoarseness and stuffiness and weakness. And if you get a cold, it's going to be a shorter period of time. And all these were significantly different. These studies were randomized. People didn't know whether they were getting the Epicor or not. They wrote down their little symptoms and went from there. So that's one thing. It helps with cold and flu prevention, and with if you get it, then you get better quicker. You don't feel as lousy. The second thing that's pretty amazing to me too, because it's not really related, is during allergy season, which is not cold and flu season. People with allergies, and if you live around Boston, you know when you have it and you know what's out and what you're allergic to. Those people that, again, were randomized to the group that got this Epicor, 500 milligrams, had fewer symptoms related to the allergy. Less nasal congestion, less runny nose, less watery eyes and stuff. And even if you didn't believe them recording their symptoms, there's a little blood test you can measure in the blood called IgE, is for short, and it's an immunoglobulin. And that thing, you don't want that very high, because if that's high, that means you're highly allergic to something around your environment. And the numbers of IgE actually went down in the people getting the Epicor, again, showing the fact that that's why they felt better, because they didn't have such an allergic reaction in their body. And lastly, in this group, they felt peppier. I know you had talked about earlier about athletes maybe using some of these herbs. Well, in this one, the hematocrits of these people went up, which means there's more oxygen to the blood cells. Wow. It didn't go up too dangerously, but it was pretty interesting. It was not a predicted thing to happen. Wow. But when you have a little better, they say, well, I felt a little better and a little peppier.
Wow.
Great stuff. I also really am impressed with the fact that there's Andrographis, Astragalus, there's some other really great formulas in there. And I really love the Andrographis. I just think that Andrographis is a terrific immune-supporting agent.
That's next on my list. We're on the same page with that. I actually just edited a book, Prescription for Herbal Healing, by the late Phyllis Bouch, and we went through all the herbs in there, and this was a sweetheart. I mean, it's sort of one of those herbs you read and you bang your head and you say, why isn't everybody taking this? I mean, there were two just beautifully executed studies in humans again, where it showed people with upper respiratory tract infections, again, getting the dose in the actually the same dose in the Joro formula, at 3 to 5 days already had a diminution of symptoms. They had fewer headaches, fewer earaches, less sore throat, and they were sleeping better. So that's sort of the upper respiratory people. And then the same cold and flu season, again, the same dose. Their chances of catching a cold was reduced in half. So reduced by 50%.
Wow.
So that's pretty. And this is a plant. I mean, this is a powerful plant.
And we just heard Dr. Richard Besser on ABC News this past week suggesting that the flu vaccine is only helping 60% of the people that receive the flu shot. So, again, 40% are getting no value from flu shot. We're talking 50-50 with Astragalus.
Exactly. And just think if you did them together, what a concept. I don't know what page you're on with the flu shot, but the standard answer is to get the flu shot. But there is nothing contraindicated in this potion that you wouldn't be taking this throughout the cold and flu season.
Right.
Most of the studies were done, up to 12 weeks, which is, except for yesterday's snowstorm, is about all you need in Boston.
Well, and elderberry is something not to be left out of this equation as well.
No, well, elderberry, that's again, is the one below Andrographis for me on my list. And the elderberry has been around a long time. You did mention the Sambuca, but what's interesting to me is the Europeans are way ahead of us in using these herbs and using them correctly. And there's a German book. It's a tome looking at all our history of evolution and what herbs were used in China, India, all throughout the world. And it's called Commission E. And now, finally, this book is translated into English, and I read most of it to work on my other editing book. But when Commission E gives you a ranking that you actually do something, that's an important thing. Yeah. That means you can be sold as a drug in Germany. That means it actually works. Elderberry has that coveted little symbol. It's like the Good Housekeeping symbol. Commission E says elderberry is good for people that have coughs, bronchitis, fever, and colds. And clinical studies obviously support it because they wouldn't be making these statements. And in this one, one of the clinical studies, if people that took it people that had the flu, 90% were cured by day 3 to 4, which is way better than you would have on your own with over-the-counter flu remedies.
Dr. Stacy Bell, all too short. I mean, we love having you on board, love to have you back in, and we thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure was ours. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
And Catherine Foley, of course, it goes by too quickly, and we love having you on board. You're a member of the family here in the Natural Health Show. Great to have you here.
Yep.
And best to everybody at Jaro.
Yep.
Especially Dallas.
Yep, I know. We love Dallas.
We do indeed. We want to also remind everybody that we want to stay tuned for Woody and Abby and the entire gang at Right Turn Radio, New England's #1 addiction program. Anybody wants to grab any of this information each and every Sunday night, and we go by pretty quickly. It's a fast hour. Please feel free to log on to my website at Max Healing. It's just one word, maxhealing.com, because doing so enables you access to all the different broadcasts we've had. We store them. We archive them, both the television end of things at Fox 25, my Living Well segment, and all the past program segments that I've done at the You Are What You Eat program segments at New England Cable News in the past as well. So it's all on there. And again, maxhealing.com. We thanks to, of course, Mike Roberts, producer, and we thank Adam Ing, Alex Todorovic, of course, the intern, and we'd like to thank Candida and thank everybody out there for listening each and every Sunday. And until next Sunday at 5, this is Mark Mincola reminding you all, please be wise, be aware, be well. Make it a healthy week. Good night. Good night.